Let's go Dolphins! This isn't just another week in the NFL, it feels like a turning point for the Dolphins. A quiet storm is brewing, and while fans celebrate the victory over the Jets, the truth is, things are far from stable. There are undeniable warning signs coming from the locker room, the front office, and even the quarterback room. And I've connected the dots. Why hasn't Chris Grier been fired yet, despite years of inconsistency and poor roster moves? Why is this coaching staff pushing a strategy that clearly isn't working against certain coverages? And what aren't we being told about injuries and behind-the-scenes decisions? I'm about to show how this upcoming game against the Panthers could be the launching pad for a comeback, or the crack that exposes the entire foundation. But before that, if you've been a Dolphins fan long enough to sense when something's wrong, then hit like right now and prove it in the comments. Go Dolphins! Let's not give up. Okay, buckle up, because what I discovered could change the way you view this team from now on. Alright, let's dive right into it. The Dolphins are coming off a home win against the Jets, and while a victory is always sweet, the question now is whether this team can turn that win into momentum. Miami heads to Carolina to face a 1-3 Panthers team that just got demolished by New England 42-13. This is the perfect opportunity for Miami to string together back-to-back wins for the first time this season, but that's only if they handle business properly, and there are signs they might not. Starting with the injury report, we've got a couple of red flags. Storm Duck is likely to miss his fourth straight game with an ankle injury. If that happens, you have to wonder why the team didn't put him on IR back in week 1. Poor planning? Another bad decision under Chris Grier's watch? I'll let you be the judge. Cedric Wilson, one of the newest WR additions, won't even practice this week due to a knee injury, so he's already ruled out. Ethan Bonner, dealing with a hamstring issue, is expected to be inactive. So your corner depth is now relying heavily on Juju Brents, Cornell Armstrong, Rasul Douglas, and Jack Jones. And while Darren Waller is dealing with a hip/rest designation, he's expected to play, although these kinds of nagging issues could become bigger problems down the line. Now let's talk about Carolina. They've got their own injury mess, with their starting RB Chuba Hubbard not practicing. Add to that DNPs for Taylor Martin, Javon Sanders, Tershawn Wharton, Charles Smith-Wade, and a limited designation for edge rusher DJ Wonnum. Their depth is already thin, and if Hubbard is out, this offense becomes even more one-dimensional. But don't let Carolina's struggles fool you. Miami cannot afford to take this game lightly. The Panthers are a bottom 3 team in the league right now, and if the Dolphins don't jump ahead early, they're opening the door for trouble. In every single Panthers game so far this season, the team that led at halftime ended up winning. So the formula is simple. Miami needs to score first and stay aggressive. Win the toss, take the ball, don't defer. Set the tone with the offense immediately, just like they did against Buffalo and the Jets. This leads me to the red zone. Miami has been elite in goal-to-go situations so far this season, leading the NFL in EPA per play when inside the 10-yard line. They're also top 10 in both rushing and passing EPA in these situations. And the Panthers? They're in the bottom 10 defensively in those exact categories. So what does this mean? It means the Dolphins need to pound the ball inside the 10 and come away with touchdowns, not field goals. That's how you bury bad teams. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Carolina's interior defensive line, featuring Derek Brown and Robinson, is solid. But their edge defenders? They're a liability. Nick Scorton and DJ Wonnum are both struggling against the run, with poor tackle grades and subpar performances overall. Pat Jones is their best edge defender, but he barely sees the field compared to the other two. So this is the rare week where I'm advocating for perimeter runs. Yes, those wide tosses and misdirections that McDaniel loves. This week, they could shred Carolina's edge defense. New England exposed their weakness last week with heavy misdirection and motion, and if there's one thing Mike McDaniel excels at, it's scheming up motion-heavy plays that confuse defenses. Expect a lot of window dressing from Miami on Sunday, jet sweeps, fake reverses, misdirection handoffs, whatever it takes to keep Carolina's linebackers and defensive line guessing. If McDaniel plays it smart, this offense should be able to rack up points fast. But all of this only matters if Miami takes care of the football. They are -2 in turnover differential this season, 22nd in the league. That's not sustainable for a playoff caliber team. The one game they won the turnover battle? Against the Jets. The Dolphins forced 3 fumbles and didn't turn it over once. Surprise, they won the game. This is not rocket science. Meanwhile, Carolina has 6 giveaways and 5 takeaways. They're not a turnover machine, but they are opportunistic, and this is where things get dicey. Tua Tagovailoa has been shaky against zone coverage this season. All 4 of his interceptions came against zone. And guess what? Carolina runs zone at one of the highest rates in the NFL, nearly 80% of the time. That is a huge red flag. When Tua faces man coverage, he looks like a top-tier quarterback. 75.7% completion, 139.6 QB rating. He's surgical. But against zone, he drops to 26th in completion percentage and 35th in QB rating. That is unacceptable, especially when you consider he's being paid to be the face of the franchise. We're not just talking about a slight dip. This is the kind of regression that gets exposed in must-win games. Tua needs to clean it up. He needs to see the field better, anticipate throws against zone, and stop forcing balls into traffic. The film doesn't lie. Those picks against Buffalo, the Colts, and New England were all poor reads against zone coverage. And finally, this game could be decided by how much pressure Miami's defense can generate. Bryce Young has been awful under pressure. His completion rate drops below 50%, his turnover-worthy play percentage skyrockets, and he just looks completely lost. The twist? He's not even getting blitzed that often, only 29% of the time. Teams are just sending 4 and still getting home. Because here's the thing, if Tua doesn't figure out how to beat zone coverage soon, this offense is going to remain capped, no matter how much talent is around him. And that's what's so frustrating for Dolphins fans. You see all these weapons, Tyreek Hill, Darren Waller, Malik Washington, and a creative mind like Mike McDaniel pulling the strings. There's no shortage of speed, no shortage of mismatches to exploit. But when your quarterback struggles to read a basic cover 2 or recognize a dropping linebacker in zone, it's like trying to run a Ferrari with no steering wheel. And this is exactly where the criticism of Chris Grier keeps coming back. How many years have we invested in trying to build around Tua? How many offensive linemen, receivers, tight ends, and running backs have we shuffled in and out? And yet, we're still sitting here hoping that this is the week he figures it out. Grier should have been gone when Brian Flores left. The inconsistency in roster construction, the failure to address obvious weaknesses in a timely manner, it's all on him. And the worst part? He's still here making calls like nothing's wrong. Now, one of the few bright spots that could help mask these issues is Miami's ability to run the ball on the perimeter. If Mike McDaniel leans into that strength against Carolina's edge defenders, there's a real chance we see Miami dominate on the ground. But he has to commit. None of this pass-happy nonsense when the run is clearly the better option. If you're facing a defense that can't tackle well on the edges and struggles with misdirection, then use it. Stick to the run, let your offensive line play downhill, and wear them down. Malik Washington could be an X-factor in this game too. He's been getting more involved each week, and against a linebacker group that struggles in coverage, he should have plenty of opportunities underneath and across the middle. Pair that with Darren Waller working the seams and drag routes, and suddenly Tua doesn't have to make those deep, dangerous throws into zone coverage. He can live in the 5 to 15 yard range and still move the chains effectively, if the game plan stays disciplined. Defensively, this game is tailor-made for a get-right performance. Bryce Young, as mentioned, crumbles under pressure. He's being pressured on nearly 35% of his dropbacks, despite defenses not blitzing heavily. That's a testament to just how shaky his offensive line has been. The Dolphins front 4 needs to take that personally. No more excuses. No more waiting for the right matchup. This is the matchup. Third-string guards, rotating tackles, an inexperienced quarterback with confidence issues. If Miami's defensive line can't dominate this game, then there's a much deeper problem we're not talking about. But here's a wild card to keep your eye on: turnovers.